saves hundreds of lives. Tilly Smith is a courageous girl. She loves to help others. She is also interested in studies. Her favorite subject is geography. Her geography lessons helped her save about 100 tourists at the Mau Khao beach at Phuket, Thailand, hit by tsunami. At the time, Tilly was only 10 years old. In 2004, she had visited Thailand with her parents and younger sister. Just before coming to Thailand, her geography teacher, Andrew Kearney, had taught her about tsunami. There were many tourists when she was at the beach with her family. Suddenly, Tilly was alarmed to see the waves at the beach receding. She warned her mother, "Mom, a tsunami is coming. Run!" Her mom, Penny, and father, Colton, immediately alerted the other tourists and the hotel staff at the beach. All of them rushed to safety in time. Everyone praised her act of courage and bravery. She has become very popular now. Bethany Hamilton survives a shark attack. Bethany Hamilton from Hawaii is a brave girl. She loves to surf. She is a fighter and survivor. She was only 13 when she lost her left arm in a shark attack. But she never looked back. She continued to surf, overcoming her serious injury. In October 2003, she went surfing with her friend Alena Blanchard and her family. It was morning. She lay on her surfboard with her left arm dangling in the water. Suddenly, 14 feet tiger shark attacked her. She lost her left hand completely. The Blanchard family rushed her to Wilcox Memorial Hospital. She recovered and came back to surf within a month, teaching herself to surf with only one arm. She won many national and international championships, including the Aspire Award for Best Comeback Athlete. She has written her autobiography, Soul Surfer, a true story of faith, family, and fighting to get back on the board. Gunjan Sarma saves 10 children. Gunjan Sarma is a young girl from a small town in Assam. She had put herself in danger to save the lives of 10 other children. In December 2013, Gunjan, along with the other children, were returning home in the school van. Suddenly, a gunman hijacked the van, along with the children in it, at Simaluguri in Assam. The driver wanted to save the children, so he dashed the van into a drain. The kidnapper picked a small child up and asked the other children to follow him. All the children started crying. Then the 14-year-old Gunjan asked the gunman to take her and leave the other children. The kidnapper took Gunjan through a dense forest. But the brave Gunjan was not scared. She did not eat or sleep in the night. When the kidnapper was sleeping, Gunjan ran away. She finally reached a village and the police were called in to rescue her. Gunjan is the recipient of the prestigious Geeta Chopra Award for 2014. Haruka Maruna cares for environment. Haruka Maruna is a brave and courageous girl from Miyazaki, Japan. She always thought of protecting the environment. She loved her dog, Patrick. But she did not like picking up Patrick's shit with her hands. So, Haruka decided to do something innovative to solve this problem. Although she was a young girl at the time, yet she thought of making a pooper scooper that was different from other scoopers. She made an eco-friendly paper scooper. It breaks into dirt when thrown away instead of taking space in the landfill. Her dad, who runs a design office, was very happy to see his daughter caring for the environment. He helped Haruka set up a company in 1998 known as Haruka Family. In November 1998, she represented Japan in the Children's Conference on the Environment. It was organized by the UN and held at Nairobi, Kenya. Her work is appreciated all over the world. Robert Cook sacrifices himself to save a girl. Robert Cook was a brave and a courageous young man. As a skydiving instructor, he was ready to protect those who trained under him. His bravery cost his life but saved the life of 21 years old Kimberly Deer. In August 2006, he was flying with the first-timer Kimberly when the aircraft engine failed. The aircraft was rapidly falling down. But Robert did not panic. He asked Kimberly not to worry. Keeping himself cool, he then made Kimberly sit on his lap, hooked her harness to his, and embraced her. He turned his body so as to protect her. Finally, the plane came crashing down. Robert took the impact of the crash upon himself. His body acted like a cushion for Kimberly. She survived the crash thanks to Robert's noble sacrifice. But Robert lost his life, acting as a human shield for a stranger. He was only 22. He was selfless since childhood. The man who put himself at risk. During the World War II, Hitler punished the innocent Jews because of his hatred. He put them in concentration camps where they met with tragic ends. Life in these camps was worse than hell. One concentration camp was in southern. We told Piliki heard about the camp in Poland. He decided to help people. He volunteered to be arrested and put into this camp. He wanted to gather secret information about the brutality in concentration camps and pass it on to the Allies forces fighting against Hitler. Witold stayed in the camp for 3 years. Thereafter, he managed to escape. The information he gave helped the world understand how prisoners were tortured and put to death. In the end, the Allies forces won the war. Vetoed was unfortunately executed by Stalin's police in 1948. Much later, in 1989, his bravery was recognized. He is described as a diamond among the Poland's heroes. Mark fights a panther to save Colton. In 2007, Colton Reeb had gone on a camping trip in Canada with his family. He was staying in a cabin. One evening, a big male panther attacked Colton from behind when he was going to an outhouse. The panther bit Colton's head as it locked its front paws around his neck. Mark Patterson, a family friend, immediately rushed to help Colton as he heard his screams. He kicked the panther 5 times, but the animal didn't. Mark then jumped onto the animal. He wrapped both his hands and one knee around the panther and squeezed its neck. The animal left Colton but threatened Mark. The panther growled loudly before attacking Mark, but Mark was brave. He also growled back, screamed and threatened the animal with his gestures. The animal was now backing off, while Mark continued howling and flinging his arms to scare the animal away. Meanwhile, Colton ran away to safety. Dave risked his life for Shirley. Dave Hartsock is a brave skydiving instructor who saved the life of Shirley Dygood. In 2009, Shirley decided to celebrate her 54th birthday in an innovative and adventurous way. She decided to skydive. She was nervous but also excited because this was her first skydiving experience. Shirley and her 44 years old instructor Dave jumped together. Dave attached himself to her harness. Initially, everything worked fine, but suddenly, Dave found out that the parachute was not opening completely. The backup parachute too got tangled with the first one. Shirley was shocked. She started praying for her life. Dave wanted to save the life of Shirley, so he arranged himself in a way that he came below Shirley. This way, he could take the blow while Shirley could be safe. After the fall, he was badly hurt, while Shirley escaped with minor surgeries. Dave was paralyzed from neck down, but he is optimistic. Michael saves woman from burning car. In November 2009, Jody Oakes was driving back from work. She was feeling sleepy while driving. Her car crashed at a full speed into a tree and burst into flames. Michael Gay, passing through the same road, a little later was alarmed to see a tree burning in the empty field. As he drove closer, he saw the burning car. Michael immediately rushed to the spot. He found a woman screaming inside the burning car. Michael tried to save the woman, but the door of the car was jammed. In addition, the flames were too big for him to help her. He squeezed himself through the window. Finally, he was able to extricate Jody out of the burning car. Jody was rushed to the hospital. She had 50% burns, facial fractures, internal bleeding, and bleeding of the brain. One of her legs was broken. She would have died if Michael had not helped her. Wesley saves Dean. Wesley Autry did an act that most of us might not have dared to imagine. In January 2007, while waiting for a subway train with his 2 kids, Wesley saw a boy named Cameron Holopeter fall to the ground. He rushed to help Cameron. Cameron was up on his feet but was still dizzy and disoriented. Failing to maintain his balance, he fell onto the tracks between the 2 rails. Suddenly, Wesley saw a subway train approaching. He reacted immediately. He did not have enough time to pull Cameron out of the tracks. So, he jumped on the tracks and covered Cameron with his body, pinning him down between the rails. The train did not stop. It rolled over them, so close that Wesley's hat got some grease marks. Cameron had apparently suffered a seizure. Wesley was able to save a man's life because of his bravery and quick thinking. Brave teacher protects students. David Benke is a maths teacher at Deer Creek Middle School. He is credited with saving the life of his beloved students. One day in February 2010, the students were leaving the class. Suddenly, a strange man entered the school, pulled out his gun, and began randomly firing shots at the students. No one was killed, but 2 students were injured. David rushed to the scene on hearing the shots. Risking his own life, the 57-year-old teacher charged the gunman. Immediately, the assistant principal and another teacher also rushed to help him. They managed to take away the gun from the criminal. David does not want any praise because he said that he cares for his students. He is humble and says that he is not a hero. The situation could have been far worse if not for the quick action of David. His students opened a Facebook group titled Dr. David Benke is a Hero. A man on wheelchair fights off a robber. Larry Skopnik has to take the support of a wheelchair to move around. But that has not made any difference to his courage. In 2010, he fought against a robber and saved Kindy Gravel, the owner of the commercial dry fruit shop store. Larry was in the shop when a man in a black shirt came to purchase cigarettes. He gave a $1.50 note. Cindy immediately recognized it as fake. She did not accept the note. The man started quarreling with her. Cindy threatened to call the police. The man became violent. He said that he would rob the store. When Larry saw the man trying to attack Cindy, he rushed in his wheelchair to defend her. He pulled the robber away, but the robber pushed him out of the wheelchair. Larry fell down on the ground. Immediately, some more people rushed in to help Larry. The police got the robber. Aung San Suu Kyi's struggle for democracy. Myanmar is India's neighboring nation. The old name of this nation was Burma. This country was ruled by a dictator. The ruler of Burma did not give freedom to its citizens. People did not speak against the ruler because they feared him. He used to put any person who spoke against him in jail. So, no one spoke against him. But Aung San Suu Kyi was brave. She did not fear anyone. When Aung San Suu Kyi spoke against the ruler, she was imprisoned. She remained imprisoned for about 20 years. She had friends in many countries. They supported Aung San Suu Kyi when she was arrested. So, the ruler of Myanmar had to release her in 2010. After her release, changes were introduced in Myanmar. People began to enjoy freedom and democracy. The credit for reforms is given to the brave Aung San Suu Kyi, who got the Nobel Peace Prize in the year 1991. The brave Helen Keller. When Helen Keller was a child, she felt terribly ill. As a result, she could not hear and see. She became deaf and blind. Most others in her position would lose every hope from life. But she was brave and courageous. She did not let her disabilities come in the way of her success. Slowly and gradually, she learned to communicate. She persisted in her efforts. She brought light into her world of darkness. She never stopped learning. She learned to read and write using her sense of touch. She became a graduate. The life of Helen Keller is inspiring. She must have been really brave to overcome her disabilities and challenges. She spent rest of her life lecturing, teaching, and educating people. She wrote many books. Today, many people are inspired by the story of Helen Keller. She changed history. People began to believe that those with disabilities can also overcome the challenges of life. 3 men embraced death to save many. In 1986, there occurred a serious nuclear accident in Russia. This is known as the Chernobyl disaster. Deadly radioactive material entered into the environment, killing thousands of people. At this time, the 3 cleanup volunteers, Alexei Ananyas, Valery Bespalov, and Boris Baranov, came forward to stop a nuclear meltdown. In this nuclear reactor, highly dangerous radioactive liquid contaminated a pool of water. The danger of blowing up was approaching every moment. The three men in scuba gear entered into the radioactive water to open a gate valve. They knew they would die, but they opened the valve for the contaminated water to drain out. This was a great act of bravery, which not everyone can perform. Had the three men not volunteered to enter into the contaminated water, there could have been a huge disaster. A thermal explosion could have possibly destroyed the whole Europe completely. The three men died of radiation within days. Teens rescue two kids. Roy Madrill Jr. and Chris Martinez are two brave teens from Tucson, Arizona. One day, they were at a local fuel station to fuel up. Suddenly, they heard a woman crying for help. The woman was 27 years old, mother of two children. She was screaming that a carjacker had speed off with her car and two children. Inna, the mother, was talking to someone outside the car when the carjacking took place. Hearing her cry loudly, Madrill and Martinez rushed to chase the carjacker. While Martinez was driving, Madrill called 911. He informed the police about the incident. The carjacker stopped briefly to drop the 6-year-old kid. Later, the police chased the carjacker and caught him. The criminal was sentenced to 6.5 years of kidnapping and auto theft. The mayor of Tucson and the Red Cross gave the teenagers a Real Hero Award. Seth Cartwright saves grandma. Seth Cartwright is 12 years old boy who lives with his parents and grandmother Rose in their home in Vernonia, Oregon. He is now being hailed as Brave Seth, as he had risked his life to save his grandmother from a raging fire. In 2012, Seth smelled leaking gas at his home and looked around for the source. Just then, he saw his grandmother lit a cigarette in her bedroom. Within seconds, she and the entire house was engulfed in flames. She was barely able to walk. Seth knew that no one else was in the house to save the grandmother. So, he went inside the room and managed to carry his grandma safely out of the house. He requested his neighbors to call the ambulance. Although their home was damaged by the fire, yet the grandmother was saved. All because of Brave Seth. The hero of 1989 Tiananmen Square. China is a neighboring nation of India. It is a big and powerful country. There is no democracy in China. People do not have freedom in China. In 1989, the students began protesting against the Chinese authorities. A large number of protesters assembled at Tiananmen Square in Beijing. The Chinese government ordered the army to use force against the protesters. A column of military tanks approached the protesters. There was a young student among the protesters. He ran and stood in front of the approaching tanks. Everyone admired his bravery, and he became a hero. Some of the protesters pulled him away before he was crushed by the tanks. Till date, his identity is a mystery, and he is called simply Tank Man. Today, no one remembers this hero, and he is forgotten. It is rumored that he was executed. Others believe that he went into hiding. But at that time, the Times magazine listed him among the 100 most influential people in the 20th century. Gandhisdhandi March. Mahatma Gandhi was among one of the bravest people in the world. He fought against the mighty British without any weapon. He and his followers suffered terrible hardships and were jailed again and again. He broke the laws that were made against the Indians, but he never used violence. Once, the British government in India imposed tax on salt. Everyone, from rich to poor, depends on salt for cooking food. Gandhi opposed this law because the price of salt should be negligible, since poor people also consume it. In order to break the salt law, Gandhi decided to trek a distance of 248 miles along with his followers to Dundee, a coastal town. He and his followers decided to make salt at Dundee. The British used violence against them. They did not allow them to break the law. However, this incident exposed the true face of the British rule. Gandhi became a hero of millions of hearts. The courageous Rosa Parks. Rosa Parks was a brave woman in America. Some decades ago in America, the white people did not treat the black as their equal. The blacks were segregated, which meant they were not allowed to study in schools where the white children studied. The black people were not allowed to sit with the white people. Rosa Parks was an African American. She did not like to be discriminated. One day, she was going by bus. She was asked to give up her seat for a white passenger. She refused. She was arrested because she had broken law. Her act of courage and bravery caught the attention of media and people. She became popular overnight. The civil rights movement was already going on in America. Her act of bravery gave strength to the movement. However, her bravery was soon forgotten, and she remained unrecognized for about a decade. Later, she received national recognition. Maria, the brave swimmer. Maria was a brave girl. She was ready to help anyone in need. She cared for her younger brother, Daniel. Maria loved to play. She also liked swimming. She wanted to become a national junior champion in swimming. Her father would help her. He would record her timing when she swam. One day, her father exclaimed, "Well done, Maria! You have beaten the record time of the last year's champion." On the day of the swimming championship event, she arrived on time. She was prepared. Her parents also came to see the event. As the referee blew the whistle and indicated to start the race, Maria jumped into the pool. She was ahead of everyone. Suddenly, she noticed her friend Julia being drowned. She quickly swam to save her. Julia was saved, but Maria lost the race. Everyone was happy when she won the Bravery Award. Joe, the brave rider. Joe loved horses. His father owned a stud farm with many horses. Some of them were the world's best horse breeds. These horses were tall and strong. Joe was especially fascinated by a tall and strong horse, brown in color. He called this horse Ace. He loved Ace because it followed his command. Joe loved to ride on Ace as it swiftly sped through the fields. One day, a customer came to purchase a horse from his father. The customer selected a grey-colored horse. This horse was fast but difficult to control. The customer decided to ride this horse to test its speed. After running for some distance, the grey horse went out of control. The customer began shrieking in fear. Joe immediately rode on Ace to help the customer. After chasing for some time, Ace caught the other horse while Joe brought it under control. The customer thanked Joe. "You can donate your blood to anyone," her mother said. Jenny felt very happy. One day, Jenny was playing with a little girl, Alina. Suddenly, Alina fell off the swing. She was rushed to the hospital. Alina needed blood. Jenny volunteered to give her blood, but the doctor said, "Little girl, you are too young to give blood. You need to be 18 years old." Without losing time, Jenny called her mother, who donated her blood. Finally, Alina recovered and thanked Jenny. Jenny helps her friend. Jenny is only 10 years old, but her knowledge and understanding beyond her age. The other day, her class teacher taught her about the importance of blood in a human body. She listened to the lesson carefully. When she came back home, she asked her mother, "Mama, what is my blood group?" "Darling, your blood group is O negative, the same as mine. It is a rare blood group." Malala defies terrorists. Malala Yousafzai is a brave young girl from Pakistan. She is interested in studies and wants every girl to study. Her home is in the Swat Valley in Pakistan. When she was only 12 years old in 2009, she wrote about the Taliban terrorists in her area. They did not want the girls to study. They wanted the girls to remain covered in veils. Malala did not follow the orders of the terrorists. She continued going to the school while many other girls did not go to school for the fear of the terrorists. Malala did not fear her life. One day in 2012, some terrorists came looking for her when she was in a school bus. They shot her 3 times. Malala was immediately hospitalized for treatment. Later, she went to the UK where she recovered. God did not want her to die. She recovered and received the Nobel Prize in 2014. Everyone praised her bravery. Dinah saves the audience. Dinah is a brave girl from Russia. She has a sister and a brother. She is the eldest among them. She loves to play with her younger siblings. Dinah loves animals. She does not fear dangerous animals. One day, Dinah went to watch the circus along with her family. Everyone was enjoying the circus. The children sat totally mesmerized before the spectacular display in front of their eyes. Suddenly, a tiger came out of the cage. It began roaring. It looked violent. It did not listen to the commands of the ringmaster. Dinah was sitting in the front row, very close to the ring. Suddenly, she saw a circus net lying nearby. She asked her father to help her with the net. In a quick move, she and her father threw the net over the tiger. The tiger was under control now. Everyone praised her bravery, and her photo was published in the newspaper the next day. Ayu finds his lost sister. Ayu lives in a village in Kenya. Ayu is the elder of the 2 siblings. Her younger sister is Imara. He loves to play with his younger sister. He cares for her. Ayu's mother and father go to work in a farm. The children do not go to school. One day, Ayu and Imara were alone in their hut while their parents had gone to work in the farm. Imara was playing outside her home while Ayu was looking at his picture book. Ayu did not realize where Imara went outside. He called her name loudly, but there was no response. Ayu was shocked to find his sister missing. He didn't know what to do. He quickly informed the village chief about his missing sister. The village chief sent his men across to search for her. Finally, Imara was found in an animal farm. Everyone was happy that Imara was found. Alexander saves a small boy. Alexander lives in Warsaw with his family. He likes listening to stories on bravery. His grandfather, Jacob Matthews, tells him a story every day. One day, his grandfather told him a story about World War II. He told him that the World War II was fought between good nations and bad nations. He also said that in the end, the good nations won the war. Alexander decided that he would be on the side of good. In the school, he noticed a small boy surrounded by some big boys. The big boys were troubling the small boy, and the small boy was crying. Alexander rushed to help the small boy. Then, turning towards the big boys, Alexander told them not to trouble the small boy. The big boys laughed and made fun of him. Alexander was fearless. He said that he would call the police if they misbehaved again. The big boys ran away. Ananyas forms a peace mission. Ananyas is a brave boy who lives in Tel Aviv, the capital of Israel. He has seen war right since he can remember. He now goes to school, but his school remains closed several times in a year because of the war. He wants everyone to live in peace. A few weeks back, Ananyas had to live without electricity because of a war that was going on. Several missiles, bombs, and rockets were flying from the two nations that were fighting. Ananyas thinks war is too bad. It causes loss of life and properties. He wants to do something so that war may not take place again. Ananyas asked his class teacher about war. He asked her how one could have peace. His teacher suggested him to form a peace mission beginning from his school. Ananyas has formed a peace mission. His peace mission includes children from all over the world who dislikes war. The brave boy from Greece. Ariston lives in Athens, the capital of Greece. He has read the stories of many brave Greek warriors. He is interested in reading the story of his nation. His teacher has told him that Greece in the ancient times was a powerful nation. There were artists, poets, writers, philosophers, and politicians in Greece. But he is most fascinated by the Greek warriors. Ariston wants to dress like a warrior. In the fancy dress competition in school, he won the award for the best fancy dress as a Greek warrior. He looked majestic in an armor and sword riding a horse. Now Ariston wanted to do a real act of bravery. He had seen brave warriors in movies performing daring feats. His father told him that the acts in movies are not real and no one should try to imitate them. Instead, he can participate in sports. Hence, he has started playing football in school. Frehivot fights chain snatcher. Frehivot is a young and brave girl. She has come all the way from Ghana to study in India. Frehivot lives alone in a hostel for girls. In the beginning, she had no friends, but now she has many friends. Frehivot feels lonely in a new society, but her friends cheer her up. One day, Frehiwot went shopping alone in a market nearby. She liked the market because she could find many items that were not available in Khan. She loves Indian beads and ornaments. She feels good and confident while wearing those ornaments. While coming back after shopping, it was late evening. Suddenly, she felt a slight tug on her chain. She realized that her chain was snatched when she saw a man running away. She was a fast runner. She ran after the man and hit him hard. She knew martial art. The man returned her gold chain and ran away. Josh saves his family. Josh was a courageous boy. His parents always complained that Josh always ate junk food. But Josh loves to eat junk food. He could not participate in sports and other activities. His mother used to scold him, but he would not listen. One day, Josh was going with his family to attend a marriage outside the town. They were waiting on a platform for the train. The family was carrying costly items like gold jewelry in the luggage. Josh began pestering his mother for chips. The mother did not want to create a scene there. So, she gave him a 10-rupee note to buy chips. When Josh was buying a packet of chips from a shop, he heard 3 thieves talking. They were planning to steal away his family's luggage. He came and quietly informed his parents about it. The thieves were caught as his father called the police. Bruno helps tourists. Bruno lives in Milan, a beautiful city in Italy. There are beautiful lakes and gardens in Milan. Tourists come to visit Milan from all over the world. Bruno knows little English. He can understand and speak English at the primary level. Bruno wants to become a tourist guide when he grows up. His father is a tourist guide. Every evening after his school, he accompanies his father to tourist spots. He watches his father explaining the importance of lakes, gardens, museums, and mountains. One day, Bruno and his father, along with some tourists, were riding a gondola. Gondola is a beautiful long boat. There was a child in the gondola. Suddenly, he fell into the lake. No one but Bruno noticed the child falling. Bruno immediately jumped into the lake and saved the child. His parents thanked Bruno. Everyone said Bruno is a brave boy who helps those in need. Norgay Doji helps the injured child. Norgay Doji is a small and happy child who lives with his family in a village in Bhutan. He has come to study in a residential school in India on scholarship. He is learning to speak in English. He is good in sports. He represents the school junior football team. Norgay doesn't like other children making fun of him. They say he has small eyes. Norgay feels bad, but he does not say anything. One day Norgay was playing football. The children in the opposite team were playing foul. They had deliberately hit him with boots because he was a good player, and the opposing team was losing the game by 2 goals. Suddenly, a child from the opposite team fell down. He was severely injured. Norgay rushed to help. He carried the child to the medical room. Now everyone liked Norgay. They did not make fun of him. Nick catches the thief. Nick is an intelligent student. He wanted to learn new things. His favorite subject is science. He wants to invent machines and gadgets for different uses. His science teacher encouraged Nick to read science. He helped Nick do the projects. One day, a burglar stole away valuable items from Nick's house. Nick's family now wanted to be careful with burglars. There were too many burglaries taking place in the colony when Nick lived. Everyone in the colony was worried about the thefts taking place. The guard did not know when the thief came and stole away the valuables. Nick had an idea. He told his science teacher that he wanted to make a burglar's alarm. The science teacher helped him make the alarm. The next time when the thief came, the alarm produced a loud siren. Everyone woke up and the thief was caught. Everyone praised Nick for his intelligent act. Animesh doesn't want children to suffer. Animesh was a poor boy. His father could not afford to send him to school. So, he began working in a small factory. It is not legal for children to work when they are less than 18 years old. Animesh was very young. He was only 11 years old. The factory owner made him work very hard. He was paid very little money. One day, some officers came with the police at the factory where Animesh was working. There were many children working in the factory. The police rescued Animesh along with the other children. Animesh started living in a shelter home with the other children. He began studying and learning. Animesh still remembers his old days and feels bad about it. He doesn't want other children to work. He now assists an NGO, non-governmental organization. He tells them how he was treated and forced to work. This NGO rescues children who are working in factories. Kurun Gamba has presence of mind. Kurun Gamba Kumar is a young boy from Manipur. He is very young. Kurun Gamba, now 9, is intelligent and courageous. He enjoys watching cartoons. He has a younger sister whom he plays with. One day, Kurun Gamba was alone with his sister in the house. His parents had gone to attend a relative's marriage. His younger sister was sleeping while he was watching a cartoon film on television. Suddenly, he saw that there was a fire in his room. Kurun Gamba was worried for his sister. He rushed with a blanket to douse the fire. The fire was extinguished. His sister was also safe. Nothing happened to her. Unfortunately, his face, hair, and thighs were slightly burnt. Kurun Gamba had seen Tom dousing fire using a blanket in the cartoon show Tom and Jerry. Everyone praised him for his bravery and his presence of mind. He was awarded the National Bravery Award in 2013. Jimin saves her father. Jimin is a brave girl from South Korea. She is only 13 years old, but is already a black belt holder in karate. She loves other sports and outdoor activities too. She lives with her parents. Her parents often used to scold her because she liked to play always. One day, she was going with her father on his bike. He was going to drop her to the school. From there, he would go to his office. On the way, 3 gangsters asked his father to stop his bike. They started fighting with him. They snatched away his wallet. Jimin rushed to save his father. She started fighting with them. She could easily beat them because she is a black belt champion. 2 of them ran away, but she caught the 3rd. Soon, the police came and caught the gangster. The other gangsters were also caught. Everyone praised Jimin's brave act. Compassionate Mother Teresa. Mother Teresa came to India at a very young age. When she was a small girl, she was compassionate. She wanted to help the sick and the poor. She wanted to make the world a better place to live in. She decided very early in life that she would dedicate her life to the service of humanity. India was a very poor country at that time. The priests in the church she was serving asked her to go to India to help the poor and sick people. She was a brave woman because she dedicated her life to the service of the sick and the poor. She came to Calcutta, now Kolkata, in India. She used to visit the streets of Calcutta to help the poor and the sick. When leprosy patients were often branded as untouchables and abandoned from their own house, Mother Teresa kissed the hands of the lepers without any fear and served them. Melissa wants to serve. Melissa is a young girl. She is compassionate but courageous. Once, she read a lesson about Mother Teresa in her school. She decided that she would also be like Mother Teresa. She told her mother that she wanted to become someone like Mother Teresa. Melissa's mother was happy to learn about the choice of a daughter. She told her that it was a good decision, but she needed to be courageous. There are many problems coming in the way of people wanting to serve human beings, she added. Melissa said that she was ready for the problems. One day, while coming from school, Melissa saw a small dog whining. The dog had met with an accident and was severely injured. Melissa brought the puppy to her home and nursed it well. In a few days, the dog recovered. Her mother praised her. She said, "You have a compassionate heart. You will do well to serve everyone." Ahmed saves a small boy. Ahmed is only 12 years old, but he is extremely brave and courageous. He lives in Iraq. He does not like the war going on in Iraq. Every day, he has to live under worries. Whenever he hears news about the war, he prays to Allah for peace. Ahmed decided that when he grows up, he will ask people not to fight, but to love one another. One day, Ahmed was going out. Suddenly, he heard the sound of bullets very close by. Ahmed understood that the terrorists were shooting innocent people with their guns. Suddenly, Ahmed saw a small boy behind the car. Ahmed fell down as if he had been shot. The terrorists thought that they had killed everyone around. After some time, Ahmed ran towards the small boy and hid himself along with the boy behind the car that was parked there. Later, both of them returned home safe. Greg and the Wolf. One day, a small boy, Greg, was sitting on the roof of his house. Suddenly, he saw a wolf passing below. Greg had heard many stories about a wicked wolf. The wolf would howl loudly in the night. When it howled, the children used to get scared. They would not sleep the whole night for the fear of the wolf. Greg wondered if this was the same wicked wolf that scared him every night. Just then, the wolf howled. Greg was not scared this time because he had seen the wolf. He did not fear the wolf, as he was perched on the top. He called all the children. The children assembled on the rooftop. Greg said, "Look, friends, here is the wolf that scares us every night." Suddenly, all of them started shouting at the top of their voices, "Thief! Scoundrel! Run back!" The alarmed wolf ran away. It never came back again. Dog saves girl from kidnapper. Amina was a little girl who lived with her mother and a dog. She called her dog Goofy Amina's mother trusted Goofy to take care of Amina when she left her alone. The brave and faithful dog had been with the family since Amina was 2 years old baby. One day, Amina's mother told Goofy to take care of Amina till she came back. Little Amina was a restless child. Finding nothing to do, she walked out of the house. Goofy caught her skirt, but she shoved him away and ran on the way. Amina met a candy seller who was a wicked man. The candy seller showed Amina some candies and asked her to follow her. As Amina walked after the man, Goofy rushed from behind. He began to bark and grabbed the man's right ankle with his teeth. The man ran away. Thus, Goofy, the brave dog, saved Amina from the kidnapper. The courageous Philemon. Philemon was a courageous boy who lived in a village nestled in the mountains. His mother was always worried about him because he would run away deep into the mountainous woods. His mother often warned him not to venture alone into the woods. It was feared to be infested with wild animals. One day, Philemon went into the woods. He encountered a tiger cub in the woods. His teachers had told him that animals do not attack humans if they are not harmed. Philemon walked away. Then he encountered the tigress, the cub's mother, but she did not harm him. Philemon had lost his way in the woods. The courageous Philemon was also wise. He knew his house was to the east of the woods. He also knew that the sun sets in the west. The sun was setting, so he began moving in the opposite direction. Finally, he reached his home. Peter escapes courageously. Peter's father was a rich businessman who doted on his little son. He would buy him toys and chocolates. His father had taught him to obey elders. One day, a stranger met Peter when he was coming from school. Giving him a bar of chocolate, the stranger asked Peter to follow him. Poor Peter! He didn't know that he was kidnapped. The stranger was a notorious criminal. He phoned his father and asked him to pay a huge ransom and take Peter back. Peter's father was worried. Peter was alone in a room. One day, when the kidnapper was sleeping, Peter ran away. He met a gentleman outside who asked him why he was crying. Peter told him everything and gave him his father's mobile number. Soon, Peter's father came with the police. Everyone praised Peter's courage and presence of mind. Peter's father told him never take anything from a stranger. Balto, the brave dog. Balto was a brave and intelligent dog in Alaska. Alaska is the coldest place on earth, covered with a thick layer of snow. Sled, pulled by dogs, is the only mode of transport here. Balto is the lead dog of his sled team. He has to carry medicines for the sick children miles away in Nome. He is the only hope for the children in need of medicine. One day, the weather turned bad. Balto found himself in the worst storms ever. It had been snowing for days. The temperature went down to -30 degrees. The children were waiting for medicine, but Balto was nowhere in sight. Everyone thought Balto might have perished in the storm, along with the other dogs. But Balto was no ordinary dog. He braved the weather under a heap of ice that protected him. Everyone was happy when Balto finally reached Nome. Manute, the brave child. Everyone in a Brazilian tribe said Manute was a brave boy. He would perform amazing feats of jumping from heights. He would catch poisonous snakes with his bare hands. He would swim across rivers and do many other amazing feats of bravery. The tribal elders prided in his bravery, and he would not let them down. Once, when he was 15 years old, the tribal elders let him participate in the tribal warfare. He was so keen since his early childhood days. He had combated single-handedly against several warriors and chased them across his territory. But it was different today. He had to encounter death. A stray tiger stood barely a few steps ahead of him. Suddenly, the tiger jumped at him, but Manute wielded his lance at the speed of lightning. The injured tiger turned back and escaped into the forest. The tribesmen honored Manute by beating drums and lifting him on the shoulders. Brave Hamid. Once upon a time in Persia, there was a poor but intelligent boy called Hamid. Although he did not go to school, yet he was beyond his age in wit and intelligence. He was sharp enough to understand words spoken in whispers. One day, Hamid noticed a group of men, all dressed in fine muslin clothes and looked like wealthy traders. They were conversing something in whispers that no one but Hamid understood. He understood from their conversation that they were thieves waiting for the night to descend so that they might carry out their mission. Hamid's heart pounded and his nervousness grew. But he was brave. So he did not let his fear overcome him. He quietly ran to the police chief of the city. Initially, the guards did not let him enter in, but Hamid prayed. Finally, they let him speak to the police chief. Thanks to Hamid, the thieves were caught. Abdullah, the brave shepherd. Abdullah, a poor boy in Kashmir, loved his flock of sheep. He used to wander in the far-off mountainous terrain, shepherding his flock. The herd of sheep sustained Abdullah and family throughout the year with meat and wool. One day, while shepherding his sheep, Abdullah saw some dangerous-looking men armed with guns coming in his direction. Abdullah was not only just wise and intelligent, but also was brave and courageous. He hid himself behind a rock and watched the dangerous men digging trenches. Abdullah quietly moved down the mountains. He had 1,000 questions in his mind. Who are these men? Why are they there? Why do they have guns? Just then, Abdullah saw a military jeep coming. He indicated the jeep to stop and courageously told the officer what he had just seen. Soon, the dangerous-looking men were caught and were found to be terrorists. The army gave a bravery award to Abdullah. Malaika, the courageous girl. Malaika and Jemina were cousins living in Afghanistan. They studied together till class 5, when Malaika's father decided not to send her to school anymore. Poor Malaika. She could not study after class 5. Jemina's father soon found a job in the US and her family shifted there. Malaika's father decided to get her married. Poor Malaika. She cried and then went to sleep. That night, she dreamt that she had started going to school again. The next morning, she courageously told her father, "Abu Jan, I don't want to marry now. I want to continue my study." Her strict father scolded her a lot. Malaika was upset. The next day, a surprise awaited her when Jemina's father came from the US. He said that he was taking Malaika to the US to give her good education. After a lot of discussion and arguments, Malaika's father agreed to the proposal. Malaika is a happy girl now. The brave Angela. Little Angela was in class 2, but she was intelligent beyond her years. She would often watch her mother cook in the kitchen and wonder at the tasty dishes her mother made. Her mother used to scold her to go and study. She did not like Angela coming to the kitchen. One day, Angela's mother was cooking in the kitchen when she came and stood by her side. Her mother shouted at her to go and study. Angela went to her room. After a long time, she went to the kitchen again, but was aghast to see that the gas burner had been turned on and no one was there. The flames were raging high. She had seen how her mother operated a gas stove, so she immediately turned off the burner Just then, her mother came. Her neighbor had called her downstairs and she had completely forgotten about the gas stove. The mother praised Angela for averting a danger. The brave Afro-American girl. Helena was a sweet little girl who was as innocent as any child. Helena was an African girl who lived in America. When Helena complained to her mother, she told her, "My sweet child, you are too weak and too poor to do anything. It was been always like that here in America." Poor Helena felt bad, but she decided to do something. She grew up and studied well. She wrote poems, stories, and essays to show the black people's feelings and suffering. When the white people read her poems and stories, they felt ashamed of their behavior. The brave Birsa. Birsa lived in a happy society. This society had everything one needed. Every child in this society heard the stories of their brave ancestors. The men, the women, and the children in this society were hard working. Then one day, some outsiders came to this society. The outsiders were treated well, but they did not treat the people of this society well. The outsiders took away the land and forest. So, the people of this society became poor. They were never poor before. The people of this society could not do anything because they had no weapons to fight with. The outsiders had guns to fight with. Then brave Birsa decided that he would arrange his men, train them to be fighters, and fight against the outsiders. Birsa fought the outsiders with bows and arrows. The outsiders had guns, but in the end, Birsa won the battle, and the outsiders were driven away. The brave prince. Once upon a time, there lived a brave prince called Arthur. When he went to the battlefields in his shining armor, the enemies ran away in fear. Arthur was not only brave, but also kind at heart. So whenever anyone met the prince with any problem, he came forward to help. One day, an old lady came to meet Prince Arthur. She said that she had no one to look after her in her old age. She also said that her neighbors were troubling her because they wanted to encroach upon her land. Prince Arthur assured her not to worry. He sent his soldiers to bring the neighbors who troubled the old lady. The prince warned the neighbors not to trouble the old lady. The prince did not stop there, but made a law that anyone who troubled old people would be severely punished and put in jail. Monica saves her sister. Monica and Tanya were sisters. Monica was 4 years older than Tanya, who had just learned to walk. Although Tanya would try to walk on her own, yet Monica would not let her walk. She wanted to hold Tanya in her lap. Poor Tanya would start crying, while the mom would shout at Monica. Monica would then ask Tanya to catch her while she would run ahead. Tanya would fall down while trying to catch Monica, and then she would begin crying. Their mom would shout at Monica again. Then Monica would take Tanya outside so that their mom might not see them. One day, while playing hide and seek, Tanya strayed into the road. Monica saw her in a sudden glance. Just then, she saw a car approaching dangerously. Monica ran fast toward Tanya and pushed her away without caring for her own safety. Both the sisters were safe. Paul hits the bully. Paul was too small to save himself when the older boys troubled him in school. Paul seemed quieter than ever when he came home every day. His puzzled parents asked Paul to explain what happened in school, but Paul never spoke up. One day, Paul's dad showed him a bar of chocolate, but would not give it to him unless he told them what was happening to him in school. Paul's father was shocked to learn how the older boys bullied Paul. He said, "Son, it is a crime if you don't stand up against bullying. So tell me if you will do something, my child." Paul nodded his head affirmatively. The next day, the older boys troubled Paul again. This time, he remembered his dad's words. Without even a second's thought, Paul hit the older boy hard in retaliation. The older boys ran away in fear and never troubled him again. Fighting injustice. The fat Phil troubled the boys in his class. He would snatch their pen, tear away their books, and would laugh out loud on the top of it. All the boys of his class complained to the principal. The principal warned Phil to behave. He gave him a sound beating. After that, Phil really became a nice boy. In fact, he became so nice that when all the other boys troubled him, he would not do anything. One day, the boys tore his shirt and sprayed ink on his dress, but Phil kept quiet. When the principal saw Phil in this state, he was shocked. On coming to know what had happened to Phil, he said, "I only ask you not to trouble others, but you must fight injustice, Phil." The other day, when the boys troubled Phil again, he resisted them. No one dared to trouble Phil again. The true martial art hero. Yuan was only 6 years old when he was sent to study under a master. The master taught martial art to his students. He made them take the vow that they would not use the art to harm anyone. Yuan learned the act quickly. One day, Yuan and his friend were practicing the martial art. In the course of the practice, his friend hit him hard. Yuan reacted instantly with a move, but then stopped immediately. It gave his friend an opportunity to hit Yuan again, but Yuan defended himself. After the fight, the master asked Yuan why he did not use the punch he was taught. "Master, that punch could have either killed or permanently disabled my friend. So I stopped. I have taken a vow not to harm anyone. except in self-defense. Yuan replied. The master was pleased. He cleared Yuan winner because he had an inner control over himself. Rashmi and a ruffian. Rashmi, just out of college, had found a good job. She was happy with the job. But a ruffian troubled her on the way to office. He passed dirty comments on her. Rashmi used to feel angry, but she tolerated it. Rashmi complained to her mother, who asked her to avoid the ruffian and keep away from him. She did not find this answer satisfying. She told her best friend about it. Her friend advised her to travel with friends. She did not find even this answer satisfying. While going to sleep, she prayed to God to show her a way. Rashmi felt a voice telling her, "Fight injustice. No one can harm you if you are right." The next day, Rashmi felt confident and stronger. As soon as the ruffian passed a comment on her, she gave him a tight slap. The ruffian never troubled her after that. Pallavi doesn't know fear. We don't know if Pallavi was brave. Pallavi was certainly innocent. She was fearless and courageous because she didn't even know the meaning of fear. When a child doesn't know the meaning of fear, the child has nothing to fear. One day, Pallavi was playing with her toys while Remai, her 2-year-old brother, was sleeping. Her mother was cooking in the kitchen. Pallavi saw an interesting creature slithering over the bed and on the infant Ramai. She found it so interesting that she caught the object and pulled it away. When her mother came from the kitchen to see the kids, she almost fainted in shock. She saw Pallavi holding a cobra by its tail. She screamed in fear. The neighbors came running as they heard her scream. The neighbors praised the bravery of Pallavi and captured the cobra in a box to be given to the local zoo. Chandrasekhar made his fortune. Chandrasekhar was barely 11 years old when his father died. His mother left him and married someone else. Poor Chandrasekhar wept that day. He decided that he would carve his own fortune. He began working at a railway platform as a coolie. He also sold reserved tickets to the passengers. Unfortunately, he fell into the bad company of pickpockets and chain snatchers. One day, the police caught him. Since he was still a child, he was sent to a remand home. Fortunately, he met a counselor who motivated him to study. Chandrasekhar went on to study with so much dedication that he topped the state board exam. A few years later, he qualified to study in a top engineering. After successfully completing the course, he was offered a job in the US, but he did not accept the offer. Today, he is helping other homeless children in studies. The brave old lady. One need not be physically strong to be brave. Bravery is also a matter of intelligence and courage. An old lady lived alone in her house, but she was brave. She was physically weak but courageous. She had no one to look after her except a pet dog. One day, some burglars entered her house. Her dog started barking and the burglars were alarmed. So they quickly gagged the dog, who went silent now. But the old lady woke up. She instantly understood that some thieves had entered her house. She acted as if she was sleeping, so the burglars left her alone. The burglars were quietly collecting the goodies when she left the house and locked it from outside. Then the old lady began shouting, "Thief! Thief!" Soon her neighbors gathered outside her house and the thieves were caught. While everyone appreciated the courage of the old lady, she rushed to her unconscious dog, which recovered later. The ghost scared even came to stay in the hostel of his school in class 5. He was young and nervous, but courageous. The seniors in the hostel enjoyed scaring the new boys. One day, a senior pointed out from the hostel window and asked the new boys, "Can you see the dark, big tree? A ghost lives on that tree." It was dark in the night, so everyone was scared. Even also felt a little fearful, but curiosity got over his fear. He became so curious that he wanted to go close to the tree and find out the truth. Then the senior warned the new boy not to go near that tree the night. Even was awake when everyone slept in the night. Slowly and carefully, he went to that tree near the hostel with a torch in his hand. He lighted the torch but saw nothing on the tree. He did not fear ghosts anymore. Ajay averts an accident. One day, Ajay's mother was not well. She was sleeping in the room while Ajay came back on his own from school. He knew his mother was not well, so he did not disturb her. His mother had asked him to take his food from the refrigerator, heat the food himself, and eat it. Ajay did not know how to light the gas, so he decided that he would eat the cold food without bothering his mother. As soon as Ajay went to get his food out of the refrigerator, he smelled something burning in the refrigerator. Smoke was coming out from the back of the refrigerator. Ajay was alarmed. The mother was nearly unconscious from fever. He was too small to reach the switchboard to put off the refrigerator. He had to act quickly, so he held the wire and pulled it off with a jerk and averted an accidental fire. The trip. Once, some children had gone on a trip organized by their school. They had gone to Mumbai from Delhi. They liked Mumbai because everything there is fascinating and different. They visited several places such as Elephanta Caves, Juhu Beach, Mumbadevi Temple, Hanging Gardens, and many more. The children enjoyed traveling in the Mumbai local train. Once, only some children had boarded the train when it began moving fast. Many children fell off the train in an attempt to board it. Ravi, the school captain, did not lose courage. He warned the children loudly not to run. Those children who were in the train also panicked because some of their friends were left behind. Ravi acted fast and quickly. He ensured that an announcement was made at the next station. So all the children waited there. Some of the injured children were quickly administered first aid. The children decided to follow Ravi's instructions. Ramesh saves lives. Sometimes kids perform greater acts of bravery than adults because bravery has nothing to do with age. Ramesh did exactly that. He saved the lives of all his friends. Ramesh had gone on a school tour with about 100 students. They were traveling in a bus. The driver of the bus was driving so fast that the teachers became worried. They admonished the driver, but he would not listen. After some time, the driver stopped at a place and said he was coming in 5 minutes. The teachers also got down from the bus while asking the children to sit inside. Suddenly, the bus began to roll driverless towards a big ditch. Ramesh, who was sitting in the front seat, knew the position of the brake. Acting fast, he put all his weight on the brake. The bus stopped and hundreds of lives were saved. Later, the driver was dismissed from the job for his careless driving and rude behavior. Motu shows the way. Once, Motu and his 4 friends went on a trekking expedition over the hills. While climbing the hill, Motu's friends made fun of him because he was climbing slowly. Motu was a fat child. He obstructed his feet against a rock to stop sliding further. He screamed and shouted. Motu rushed behind. Then Motu held onto a low line and offered his feet to his friend to hold. The friend escaped unhurt with Motu's help. Everyone reached safely under Motu's guidance. Rahim saves Kareem in the zoo. One day, Rahim and Kareem, along with some of their friends, went to visit the zoo. They enjoyed watching different animals and birds, including baboons, zebras, chimps, rhinos, deer, cockatoos, partridges, and many more animals. They were excited when they reached the tiger enclosure. Kareem had a bad habit of throwing peanuts at the animals or poking twigs at them. Rahim had warned Kareem not to disturb the animals. But Kareem began irritating the tiger as he threw banana peels at the tiger. The tiger was lower down in the enclosure, while Kareem had bent over the cemented enclosure. Kareem almost slipped into the enclosure as he bent over it in excitement. Rahim was quick to hold Kareem by his belt before he could have fallen down 20 feet in the enclosure and became the tiger's prey. Kareem thanked Rahim for saving his life and never disturbed the animals again. James saves Kevin. Jackson, the police officer, had two young kids, James and Kevin. Kevin was very young, while James was 4 years older than Kevin. Jackson loved his kids. He would play with his kids whenever he found time. Once, Jackson showed James his revolver and explained everything about it, including its safety lock. James was a responsible child who took care of his younger brother Kevin. One day, Jackson had accidentally left his loaded revolver on his bed while he was taking a walk outside in a park. Kevin began fondling with the revolver. Suddenly, James was alarmed when he saw Kevin playing with the revolver. James rushed quickly from behind and closed the safety lock of the revolver that was open at that time. James knew the consequences if Kevin accidentally triggered the revolver. When Jackson came back, he was shocked at his negligence, but proud of his son James. Catching a pickpocket. Ashley was bold and brave and would come forward to help anyone needing help. Once, he was traveling in a bus when he suddenly heard a woman crying loudly, "Help me! Someone has stolen my purse. There are valuables in it." No one cared for the crying woman, while the bus continued to run. Ashley immediately shouted, "Stop the bus! Don't let anyone get out of the bus!" Since Ashley shouted with force and authority, the driver immediately stopped the bus. But nothing happened. As everyone was quiet, Ashley then asked that he would call the police and began calling the police when a dangerous-looking man said, "Is this the purse? It was lying here." The pickpocket had given back the purse at the threat of the police. The woman recognized her purse and profusely thanked Ashley for helping her. The other passengers made sure the criminal was arrested by the police. Joel saves a blind person. Joel was a young boy who never missed his school. His school was located at a blind curve. It was a dangerous curve where several accidents had taken place in the past. The parents of the school children had complained several times in the past about this issue, but the authorities did nothing about it. Joel's parents, being worried about the safety of their child, had taught him all the traffic safety rules for the pedestrians. Joel was a little child, so he always waited for the senior students or teachers to help him cross the road. One day, Joel was waiting alone. There was no one to help him cross the road. Suddenly, Joel saw an old uncle crossing the road, lost and unconcerned, while a vehicle was coming from the opposite direction. Suddenly, Joel ran quickly and pushed the old uncle, who was blind. He profusely thanked Joel, realizing what had just happened. School children rescue flood victims. The swimming team of a city school had qualified for the state championship. Every member of the team was highly excited. As they were going to another town to participate in the championship. Their coach told him that a good sports team has positive spirit and excellent human values. The next day, they were in the town enjoying the scenic beauty. They were by the river to practice swimming before the tournament. Suddenly, a huge cloudburst caused torrential rain and the river was flooded. There were many tourists in the town who were caught in the flood. The city school swimming team began rescuing the flood victims without wasting a moment. They were only 10 boys and a coach, but together they saved hundreds of lives. The rescued tourists were brought to a safe place. Although the state swimming tournament was cancelled, yet the chief minister gave away bravery awards to the swimming team. Talented Kasim. Kasim did not go to school because his parents were too poor to afford his studies. He was poor but talented and had a pleasant personality. He thought it was undignified to beg, so he decided to make use of his talent to earn money. He entertained tourists at Agra by showing and explaining them about the monuments and the historical places. He had learned the history of Agra in various languages while working as an assistant to a tourist guide. The foreign visitors loved to hear about Agra in the native language and paid him generously. One day, a tourist was very impressed by his talk and said, "You are too young to work for your living, my boy. Will you come to my country? I will educate and train you for future." Kasim readily agreed. Today, Kasim is educated and works with an NGO, non-governmental organization, to help the underprivileged children. Brave Kaushalya catches the chain snatcher. One day, a bold woman named Kaushalya was coming along with her neighbor Sandhya from school where their kids studied. They used to walk to the school while dropping and bringing back the children from the school. Suddenly, a chain snatcher swept past Sandhya and ran away taking her gold chain. Poor Sandhya became so nervous that she almost fainted out of fear. The brave Kaushalya ran after the chain snatcher, shouting loudly. Fortunately, some men were coming from the opposite direction. They were alarmed to see a woman running after a man. They had also heard her shout loudly. Without wasting a moment, the men caught the chain snatcher. Sandhya got her chain back while the chain snatcher was handed over to the police. While commending the bravery of Kaushalya, the police said that many more women got their gold earrings and chain from the chains. An old-time criminal. Rohan saves Mohan. The Ramleela show was held peacefully every year in a village. But this year, it was not so peaceful. When Mohan was chosen to play the role of Hanuman, Sanjay felt so jealous that he decided to take his revenge. Actually, Sanjay used to play the role of Hanuman every year. He did not want anyone else to play this role. On the day of Ram Leela, when Hanuman was about to fly in the air to Lanka, Sanjay decided to do a nasty act that might have nearly killed Mohan. There was a strong but thin wire over which Hanuman was hooked, so that he might appear as if he was actually flying. Sanjay went backstage to play his dirty trick. He wanted to cut the wire so that Mohan might tumble down. He was about to cut the wire when Rohan suddenly found him. He held Sanjay, threw him on the ground, and saved Mohan. Millie helps police. Although everyone was praising Millie, yet she thought she hadn't done anything big to deserve the praise. The local newspaper reporters had come to take her interview. The police inspector had also come to thank her. Millie was a poor girl who took tuitions to finance her studies. One day, she came across a woman who had promised to take her to the city where she would get a good job and lucrative salary. Millie wanted to take up the offer because she was poor, but she refused and went to meet the police inspector instead. The police arrested the woman, a child trafficker, along with the gang. In her interview, Millie told that there was a seminar in a school she had attended. In this seminar, the instructors had told the students that they should report the matter to the police immediately if someone offered them good jobs in a city. Thomas saves Rita's life. Thomas was a young college student. He came from a small town and had worked very hard to gain entry into one of the America's best colleges. He was a fearless person and helped save Rita's life. One day, he was returning from the library after doing some research for his college assignment. The sun had set and the parking lot was almost dark. As he hurried to his hostel, he heard a woman screaming. He turned towards the sound and saw two men attacking a female student named Rita. He ran to save her. When the assailants saw him coming, they tried to escape with a purse. Thomas ran after them. One of them slashed his face with a knife, but Thomas did not stop. He was able to catch the assailant, who had Rita's purse. Thanks to his efforts, the other assailant was also caught soon. The old man saves the village. Once, there was an old man who lived in a village in Japan with his wife. When his wife died, he stopped talking to everyone and moved to a mountain nearby. The villagers would often come to check on him. One day, an earthquake hit their village. There were mild tremors, and the villagers were not very worried. However, the old man saw from his house in the mountain that the earthquake had caused a massive tsunami. He could see the waves building up before they hit the village. He knew that no matter how fast he ran, the tsunami would reach before him. Suddenly, he had an idea. He set his house on fire. He knew the villagers would come to rescue him when they saw the smoke and flame. As he had expected, many of the villagers came running to save him and were, in turn, saved from the tsunami. Lewis saves farm's animals from fire. Lewis was a young farmer. One night, he woke up when he felt thirsty. He got up to drink some water. While he was drinking, he heard some strange noises. He went outside to see where the noises were coming from. He saw that a building on the other side of his land had caught fire. Lewis ran to see if anyone was caught in the fire. When he reached the building, he realized it was a farm. The noise was coming from the animals who were stuck inside the farm, as the door was locked from outside. Lewis quickly found a sturdy rod to break the lock. He then opened the door and let the animals out. Some of the smaller animals were disoriented because of the smoke. Lewis went inside the burning farm to bring them out. Thanks to his efforts, none of the animals died in the fire. Makalo saves the village. Makalo was an 8-year-old boy. He used to live with his grandfather in the village. The stories his grandfather told him filled him with courage and bravery. He wondered if he would ever get a chance to show his bravery. One day, when he was going to his friend's house, he heard a strange noise coming from behind the trees. He stopped immediately. When he looked closely, he saw a leopard hiding behind the tree. The trees were right next to the road. Makalo knew that the leopard could easily kill anyone walking on the road. He turned around and ran to the village, shouting at the top of his voice to attract everyone's attention. He did not worry about whether the leopard was following him or not. He warned everyone to stay inside, while the village elders informed the authorities. Thanks to Makalo, everyone was saved. Aziz prevents a train accident. Aziz was a 14-year-old boy. He used to live with his widowed mother. After attending school, he would work for a few hours at a small grocery shop near the railway station. One day, when he was on his way to work, he noticed that a piece of the track had been removed by some miscreants. Aziz knew that this was very dangerous. He ran to the station to inform the station master. However, before he could reach the station, he heard a train coming down the tracks. If the train did not stop, it would be derailed and many passengers would die. Aziz decided to stop the train himself. He turned and ran towards the train. He took off his shirt and waved it like a flag. When the injured driver saw him on the tracks, He pulled the brakes immediately. Thanks to Aziz, all the passengers were unharmed. Manuel stands up for children. Manuel was an old man. He lived in Brazil. He used to sell food from a van every day to earn money. He used to park his van near Children Park, opposite the busy bus stand. Every day, children of all ages would come to play in the afternoon. One day, Manuel saw some thugs near the park. He was dismayed to see the goons not allowing the children to enter the park. They wanted to take control of the park so that they might use it for illegal activities. The children were scared and decided to leave. Manuel told the thugs to leave because the park was for the children. The thugs threatened to hurt him, but Manuel was insistent. Even when they attacked his van, he did not back down. Ultimately, the thugs had to leave since they did not want the police to come. Amelia saves her grandfather. Amelia was a 7-year-old girl who loved to go for walks with his grandfather. She especially enjoyed the season of cherry blossoms when all the trees in her town were filled with beautiful flowers. One day, Amelia and her grandfather were so carried away by the beauty of the cherry blossoms that they went farther than usual. Amelia was not worried since she was with her grandfather. Unfortunately, her grandfather had a sudden heart attack. He sat down on a bench to catch his breath, but before he could say or do anything, he fainted. The sun had begun to set, and Amelia did not know the way home, but she behaved very bravely. She ran on the path until she found an adult. Amelia told the young man what had happened with the grandfather and asked him to help. Finally, the grandfather was saved and everyone praised Amelia. Janet survives a blizzard. Janet was a very adventurous and active girl. She loved to go hiking with her friends. One day, she decided to go on a hiking by herself. She was able to cover a large distance and set up a camp in a quiet and isolated area. While she was sleeping, the mountain was hit by a freak blizzard. When she woke up in the morning, her tent was surrounded by snow. Janet did not know what to do, but she did not lose heart. She took her essential belongings and decided to hike up the mountain until she found a clearing. She knew that the rangers would be looking for any survivors. After 14 hours, a helicopter spotted her and she was rescued. Janet's toes were damaged due to frostbite, but she did not lose her love for hiking. She returned the next year and completed her solo hike. Defoe's bravery saves his friends. Defoe was a young boy who was studying in school. Unfortunately, his village was in an area full of conflict. Every day there were skirmishes between the rebel army and the government. One day, when the boys were studying, the rebels attacked their school. They locked the teachers in one room and started threatening the students. Defoe knew that he would be caught and forced to join the rebels if he tried to run away. He hid behind a desk and waited for the correct timing. When the rebel went to the other class, he sneaked with his friends into a storeroom and locked it from outside. Then he ran into the staff room and hid in a cupboard under a pile of papers. The rebels left after a few minutes, taking as many boys as they could. They did not check the storeroom because it was locked from outside. Gabriel rescues 2 children. Gabriel was a teenager who liked to spend his free time by the riverside. He knew how to swim very well, but he also knew that one must always be careful while swimming. One day, he and his friends were playing near the river. "It is so hot. Let us go swimming," said a friend. "No," replied Gabriel. "This is not the right time for swimming. There are black clouds upstream, which means the river might suddenly swell up with rainwater." Suddenly, they heard the roar of water and saw water gushing rapidly into the river. To their horror, they saw that 2 children had been swept into the river by the sudden onslaught of water. Gabriel did not pause to think. He jumped into the river and swam towards the children. It was very difficult to swim against the ferocious river, but he was able to rescue them. Irina speaks up for an autistic man. Irina was a secretarial assistant in Moscow. Every day, she would take the metro to reach her office. One day, she was running a little late and missed her train. While she was waiting on the platform, she saw a group of rowdy teenagers in a corner who were creating a ruckus. At first, Irina ignored them, but then she heard some whimpering sounds coming from the group. She went to see what was happening. She was horrified to see that the boys were teasing an autistic man. They had taken his bag and were not returning it. The man needed his bag as it had his money and other documents. Many people were looking at the teenagers with disgust, but they were afraid to speak up since they could see the group had guns. However, Irina did not feel scared. She forced the teenagers to stop teasing the man and return his bag. Cheng saves a panda. Cheng was a student of zoology. It was his dream to work in the panda reserve. He liked to spend his free time observing pandas in their natural habitat. One day, when he was in the jungle, he heard a panda's cry for help. He moved slowly in that direction. A short distance away, he saw the panda. It was choking on something and was unable to make any noise now. Cheng knew that the panda might die if he went to seek others' help. However, if he went too close, the panda could attack and injure him. But there was no other option. By then, the panda was nearly unconscious. Cheng quickly opened its mouth. He saw that the panda was choking on a plastic wrapper that some tourist had carelessly thrown away. Cheng removed the wrapper with the help of forceps and managed to save the panda's life. Jhumki fights for ecology. Jhumki was a young girl who lived alone with her mother in their village in the Pichakio, Western Ghats. Her father and brothers used to work in the city, while Jhumki and her mother farmed a small piece of land. One day, some men came from the city and told them that they would have to vacate their land. They said that they had bought the entire village as it was situated over a very large deposit of some mineral. Jhumki was aghast that the men intended to uproot the entire village and destroy the forest to dig up the minerals. At first, the villagers were dispirited, but when they heard Jhumki's fervent speech, they decided to fight for the land. They formed a human chain as a mark of protest. They refused to leave the land and declared the sale illegal, since none of the villagers had received any money or agreed to the sale of their ancient land. Courageous Bilal saves fellow boys. Bilal lived in Syria in an orphanage along with many other boys. One day, the orphanage was attacked by the Syrian enemy. The owner of the orphanage felt it was dangerous to keep the children there. So he decided to smuggle the boys to a safer city by hiding them among the vegetables he used to sell. On his way, he was stopped at a checkpoint set up by the enemy. He told the guards that he was going to the city to sell some vegetables. One of the guards was suspicious and decided to check the bags. He hid the bag in which Bilal was, but Bilal did not make any sound. When they were at a safe distance, the owner rushed to check on Bilal. He found Bilal badly hurt, but the boy did not make a sound, as it would have sent them into danger. Thus, his action saved the lives of his fellow boys. Julia prevents a camping disaster. Julia and her friends were going camping for the first time from the school. They were very excited about it. The children had to hike for a few kilometers before they would reach the campsite. Julia and her friends were very excited by the beautiful birds and plants that they saw on the way. They began to dawdle, and before they knew it, the group had moved on. Nightfall found them all alone in the forest. Julia knew that they would have to wait till morning. She also knew that there were many dangerous animals in the forest. She quickly gathered some wood and lit a fire so that they might feel safe. She made sure that the fire burned all night so that no animals might attack them. The smoke also helped attract the attention of the teachers, who rescued them early in the morning. Ryan doesn't give up. When Ryan was born, his hands were not formed properly. On the left arm, he had only 2 fingers, whereas his right arm ended with a stump. Many people pitied Ryan because of his disformed arms. But Ryan was very brave. He refused to see this as a problem and saw it as an opportunity to set an example of how everyone can lead a fulfilled life. Ryan loved statues and wanted to become a sculptor. His teachers felt his desire would never be fulfilled because of his arms. However, Ryan never gave up. He tried to see how he could bring his ideas to life. Even when people ridiculed him, he continued practicing. His parents encouraged and supported him. With time, Ryan became skilled at sculpting clay. When he was 27 years old, Ryan held an exhibition of his sculptures. People were amazed to see how beautiful his sculptures were. Alana overcomes her fear. Alana lived with her parents in Brazil. When she was very young, she had seen a horrific road accident. Since that day, she was afraid of blood. One day, she was traveling with her mother in their car. A truck was coming from the other side. One of the tires of the truck burst, and the driver lost control of his vehicle. Alana's mother tried to swerve and prevent an accident, but unfortunately, they collided with the truck. Alana was not hurt, but her mother's left arm was broken and she was covered with small bleeding cuts. Alana's mother was very frightened, but Alana knew that she had to help her mother. She took out the first aid kit, bandaged her mother's arm, and cleaned her wounds. After that, Alana helped her mother tend to the driver of the truck, who was bleeding heavily from the gash on his head. Al saves mom and baby from fire. Al was a young Nigerian man. He liked to go for a walk every evening after dinner. One night, he heard commotion on the street ahead of him. he could see that there was a fire raging in a building. When he reached the building, he saw a young lady had collapsed near the balcony door. She had hurt her leg and could not walk. She had her baby in her arms. I knew that by the time the fire engine would come through the narrow lanes, it would be too late. He ran into the building and climbed the stairs. There was smoke everywhere, and it was difficult for him to see anything. He followed the noise of the baby crying until he reached the lady. He pulled her onto his back and carried her baby in his arms and brought both of them out of safely. Nicholas and his friends freed the gypsies. Nicholas and his friends used to travel around the country during their holidays. They used to go from village to village and work for their lodging. This way, they could save money and help people as well. One day, they reached a gypsy settlement outside a village. They found many women and children living in caravans. The women told them that the police had locked the men since they did not have any travel permit. Nicholas knew that no travel permit was needed for traveling from one city to another. He knew that the police did this to harass them. Nicholas and his friends confronted the police. They told them to release the prisoners, otherwise they would lodge a complaint against them in the next village. The police threatened to arrest them all, but Nicholas and his friends were fearless. Ultimately, the police had to let the gypsies go. Boris helps a child to safety. In 1990s, the former Yugoslavia was wrecked by civil war. Boris was fighting the war along with his people. He spent many years in the trenches outside the enemy villages. One day, while patrolling, he saw a small boy hiding behind a tree. At first, he thought that he might be a spy. A closer look revealed him as 8 years old boy. The boy belonged to the village that Boris was fighting against. He has wandered off, and now he was lost. He did not know how to return to his village. Boris decided to take him to the village border himself. He knew that he could be shot, but he did not want to put the young boy's life in danger. On the way back, Boris was shot twice by the villagers. But he waited for the shooting to stop before he sent the boy back into the village. Kasia speaks the truth. Kasia studied in the 9th grade in her school. She was a very popular girl and a good student. One day, the teacher was late. The children began playing with the ball in the class. This was against the rules. The children did not notice that the teacher was coming. When the teacher entered the class, everyone rushed back to his seat, and Alex was left holding the ball. The teacher was very angry at the behavior. The students began blaming Alex, saying he had brought the ball and was trying to show them some tricks. The teacher decided to punish Alex for playing in the class. Most students remained quiet, but Kesia told the teacher that it was not Alex alone who was to blame. All of them had been playing. The teacher was angry with the whole class, but appreciated Kesia's courage in clearing Alex's name. Kiara keeps her promise. Mrs. McAdams lived all alone in a little house on a small country lane. Ever since her husband died, her only visitor was a young girl called Kiara. Kiara would come every week to visit Mrs. McAdams and help her complete tasks around the house. Mrs. McAdams enjoyed her company a lot. Mrs. McAdams used to get very lonely on Christmas, so Kiara promised to visit her every year on Christmas. One year, there was heavy rainfall on Christmas Eve. Mrs. McAdams could not see the road from her house. She knew Kiara would not be able to come and was very sad. However, Kiara was adamant on visiting Mrs. McAdams. When her car could go no further, she decided to walk in the snow all the way to Mrs. Adams' house. It was very cold and dangerous to go by herself, but Kiara did not want to break her promise. Carmen builds a bridge. In South America, there are many villages that are cut off from the rest of the world because they lack proper bridges. One day, Carmen saw a documentary on TV about a village where there was no bridge. The villagers had to put themselves across a rope. Carmen decided to help the villagers. She started a campaign to raise money for building a bridge in order to connect the village to the rest of the world. A large amount of money was required, and many felt that it would be very difficult. However, Carmen had set her heart on achieving her goal, and she did not give up in the face of insurmountable odds. She went far and wide for public support to raise the money. Once she had raised the money, Carmen and her friends went to the village themselves and ensured that the bridge was built in their presence. Father Liam saves a murder suspect. Father Liam was the head of a church in Ireland. He was very popular and helpful. Everyone in the village respected him. One day, a man, Adrian, entered the church. Father Liam had seen his face on the news and knew he was wanted for murder. Adrian swore he was innocent and asked for sanctuary. According to church rules, any man who asked for sanctuary would be safe in the church. When the police came, Father Liam refused to turn over Adrian to them. Adrian wanted another investigation to be done, as some important evidence had been overlooked. Till the police did not agree, Father Liam kept Adrian safe, even though the whole village turned against him for harboring a murderer. However, Father Liam knew that the real courage lay in doing what was right and not giving in to public opinion. The second investigation proved Adrian innocent. Madison follows her heart. Madison belonged to a rich family. She was brought up in wealth and never wanted for anything. As she grew older, she began to develop genuine sympathy for others' suffering and trials. When Madison became an adult, she decided to donate all her money to a charity and live among the poor and work for them. This was not an easy decision. Madison knew she would have to face many difficulties. She knew that by giving away all her money, she would lose many pleasures of life. Many people tried to dissuade her. However, Madison had made up her mind. She had the courage to follow her heart, even though it led her onto a hard and difficult path. Despite all the problems she faced later on in life, Madison never regretted her decision. She felt the blessings of the poor were worth more than all the money in the world. Adeline helps her friend. Many years ago, Europe was ravaged by the Second World War. The Jews faced a lot of persecution and were targeted for their religious identity. Anyone who tried to help them was punished along with them. However, despite this, there were many people who came forward to help their Jewish friends. Adeline was one of them. She belonged to a religious Christian family in Germany. One of her best friends was Esther, a Jew. Esther and her family knew that they would soon be sent to prison and were looking for someone to help them. When Adeline came to know about it, she offered to hide them in her house. It was not an easy decision. If anyone found out, Adeline and her family would be sent to prison too. Adeline hid Esther and kept her aged parents in the attic and kept them safe from the Nazi militia.
Thanks for watching. Do like, share, subscribe to Sahil Book House.